coming back to the return type of the functions that we were watching, this void uh, is placed before the my function name. So what is basically the use of return types? So if we see it in a certain way, then with the analogy of a machine, like if I'm trying to assign a work to a machine of cooking, and this is a machine, and I'm giving it all the stuff that is required for the machine for the cooking. So these things are known as parameters, because these are assigned by the uh, user itself, that these are the things that you will be requiring for performing a certain thing. So a return type is basically, this machine will be called, it will perform the action of cooking, it will cook the food, and it will present you with the food. So basically it is giving you something in return after it is getting called. So whenever there is an output, or whenever there is a certain value that is returned by the function after it is called, after it is getting executed, then that particular value, the type of that particular value is known as the return type, right? So basically here what the thing is ki these food stuff is known as parameters. Now it will perform the function of cooking, it will cook the food, and it will make a dish, and it will give you the dish. So basically this dish is the return value. This is a return value, and the type of dish is known as the return type. So basically sometimes in normal terms, sometimes the function is going to return 10. So this is basically an integer type value, and the return value is 10. So return value is basically 10, and the return type is basically integer. So this is how the return type would work. Um, and further, if we need to understand it in detail, then basically a function's return type specifies the type of value that the function will return when it is called. The return type is declared before the function name and usually placed in the function prototype. So as we saw earlier, that the function is getting declared here, and it is placed before the function's name, right? So this is void is also a type of return type. Okay, so this is placed before function's name, and it is mandatory, like it is not like if you want to give or not, it has to be given. And the return type can be any of the built-in C data types. Means what, if we are writing a code in C language, then C language is having a built-in C data type support, such as we have integer int support that supports integer values, we have float values. Apart from that, we have definite double values, we have char values. And so basically what I mean to say is ki if we are declaring it as integer, then it has to return something integer after it is getting called. And basically what the void is, if we do not want our function to return anything, then we'll name it as void. Why? Because see, if we are seeing this function, then it is simply printing something, it is not returning a value. It is performing the task, it is not giving you something in return, it is just printing a statement. So this does not have any return type. So basically we are declaring it as a void function, no return type. So this is a keyword, this void is a keyword, this is not something that is written by the user, a manipulative thing. It's basically something which is predefined. So if we do not have a return type, then we're going to name it as void. So moving on further, we can see that it is basically important to note that if a function is declared to return a value, it must include a return statement that specifies the value to be returned. Like in this, it was written as void, so no need for that return statement. But if you focus on this integer function, that is by default or conventionally has been defined as integer function. Like this int is the, because the main is also a function, so this int is basically the return type, and in the end we always write this return 0, because something or the other we have to return something if we are declaring it as a, if we are declaring it with a return type. Okay, so we write this thing, we may write something or the other also, 2 3 something, anything that is integer, because we are writing integer over here. So this is how the return type would work. And moving on further, so this is basically a program or the line of code where the function is now a parameterized function as well as it has a return type. So this is the function with both the functionalities that we saw earlier of parameters and of return types. So if we see the flow of control, then the execution will start from the main function. The main function is itself defined as integer function because it is returning an integer value, and that is specified by this integer keyword. So it is not mandatory to specify it as an integer function. We may also write void over here, but accordingly we have to change the function, because if we are going to write the void, then definitely we need not include this return statement at the last. But conventionally we do it that way, so it is written here with the integer specification. So the execution will start. The first statement to be getting that will get executed is this printf statement, and what it is doing is it is simply printing result is and this is basically a specifier that is specifying an integer value that will come over here, and this comma basically it is getting printed that way. And now the flow of control is coming to the next statement, that after the comma a call has been made to the function. Now this from here we can also, this is a concept where we can learn key inside a printf statement also we can call a function. So function call has been made, my function has been called, and parameter has to be given because we have defined a parameter, so we need to pass a parameter. Without passing the parameter we may not call the function. So here we have given an integer parameter, so we need to give an integer value. So here we have given 3 for example. So now the flow will go back to this function, it will call the function, and now it will say that perform your operations. So now the flow will come to this statement which says return 5 plus x. So there is no other statements that are defined, it simply comes to the basic that return 5 plus x. So basically first what 5 plus x would be, this x is having a value of 3 because we have passed a value here as 3. So 5 plus x is going to be 8, and what this return 8 means key whenever we are going to call this function we are going to have the value as 8. So now when this is saying as printf result is and the specifier, and we are calling this function, so after calling this function we would get 8 in this place, right? So here where my function has been called we would get the value 8. Why? Because we are returning this value from the function. So the final output that is going to be is, it would be result is 8. So this is how the flow of control will work. If we would have given a certain other value apart from 3, so if we would have given here let us say 10, if we have given here 10, then what the output is going to be, it will go to this function, and now the x value will store 10. X value is going to store 10, and now it's going to return 10 plus 5, that is equal to 15. So now it's going to print result is 15. The 15 is going to be the output. So this is how the concept of functions with parameters and return values work. The thing that you need to understand is this integer is basically the return type, that the type of value it is going to return, whether it's float, double, character or anything, and the value that it has to be returned, it should come with the return keyword. This is a keyword and this is the return value that it's going to return. So this is how the flow will work, and certainly this is an easy statement or the easy program to understand, but an important concept to grasp the enough knowledge of programming. And these concepts are basically same, and if you will go to C++, Java, so these concepts will remain the same of functions, the return type and the return values, parameters, etc. So this is how the return statement would work.